Good rainy afternoon, everyone. We're just a couple of minutes before our start time, or maybe I should just say 1 minute before our start time. We're so grateful for those of you who logged on early so that we can start on time. We definitely want to honor those of you who have arrived on time, but we know there'll be folks logging on after work and other activities that will cause them to have to join us just a few minutes late. So we welcome them as well. We had a little musical interlude with a slideshow there to help you pass the time while we were waiting, and we're really grateful to see a lot of friendly faces on the screen tonight. So I will get started. It's 5 o'clock. Welcome, everyone. I am Michael Yoder, as you can see on my screen name there. We can't hide anymore in this day of Zoom, although I guess you could put an incorrect name in, but that is my name. I'm the executive director at Associated Ministries, and we're really, really grateful that each of you has chosen to spend an hour with us this afternoon as we focus on making a difference in the lives of those experiencing homelessness in Pierce County. For those, so we do have a really great hour planned, and we're really hopeful that you'll gain a new understanding and a renewed commitment to help address the challenges of homelessness throughout the meeting here in the next hour. And again, towards the end of our time together, we're going to provide you with an opportunity to invest in making a difference for our unhoused neighbors. So look for that in the chat box, and then we'll hear a little bit about that specifically from our board member, Sarah Rumbaugh, at the end of the meeting. But to kick things off, speaking of board members, it's my privilege to introduce the president of the board of directors of Associated Ministries, Chris Ferguson. Dr. Ferguson joined the AM board 6 years ago, following a career as a research librarian and then an organization leader for multiple research universities. In his several years at Pacific Lutheran University, to conclude his career, he served as Chief Information Officer and Associate Provost for Information and Technology Services. So Chris, over to you for our official welcome, and thank you all for being here.
Thanks for the kind words, Mike. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for Associated Ministries' annual gathering of our supporters. You know, normally around 350 of us would be together in the same room, sharing a meal, renewing our friendships, but we all know that this is a very different kind of year. So we're undertaking our first ever series of online meetings that we're calling AM Focus Week. So welcome to our new normal here. Associated Ministries, as many of you know, is an interfaith nonprofit organization that reflects the broad diversity of Tacoma's faith communities. For example, I'm a member of Tacoma Friends, Quakers, and I'm deeply connected with Peace Lutheran Church's affordable housing program. It's primarily my work through Peace, maintaining 3 houses that have been homes now to several families that had previously been homeless, that is my pathway of faith that brought me to working with the Associated Ministries Board of Directors. Others like you connect with Associated Ministries and its mission in different ways, of course, but the common element in all our approaches to this challenge of homelessness in our community is compassion. All faith traditions, all people of goodwill share this core value of compassion. And so compassion is at the center of our program and our appeal to you this evening. Before beginning the formal portion of our program together, time together, we want to open with a devotional thought. And today we've asked Linda Hart to lead us. The Reverend Dr. Linda Hart has served the Tahoma Unitarian Universalist congregation as minister since August 2014. A lifelong Unitarian Universalist, she was ordained to ministry in 1984 and has served in diverse settings during her career. From working with the Northside Ecumenical Night Ministry and outreach to homeless teens, to serving a small congregation in Southwest London. Reverend Hart brings experience of diverse settings and styles of ministry. Reverend Hart lives in Olympia with her husband, Peter Teets, and their 15-year-old daughter. When not working, she loves to cook, knit, read, and cuddle and play with Cooper the black lab and Mona the calico cat. So thank you for opening us and centering our time together today, Linda.
Good evening, everyone. It's good to be here. I am pleased to be part of the Associated Ministries community and glad to be here to help you center for tonight. I'm really ready, perhaps you are too, to stop saying in these days of the pandemic, in these days of chaos in the country of all sorts. And I find that, at least for myself, and I suspect for many of you, finding that moment to take a breath and to lean back and to unclench your jaw and relax your shoulders and straighten out your neck a little bit is a good thing. I want to share with you a poem that is special to me during this time. And it's called Self-Compassion. It's by James Crew. And at the end of that, I'd like to invite you into a moment, just a momentary practice of centering as we prepare to be enlightened and connected tonight. First, this poem. My friend and I snickered the first time we heard the meditation teacher, a grown man, call himself honey, with his hand placed over his heart, to illustrate how we too might become more gentle with ourselves and our runaway minds. It's been years since we sat with legs twisted on cushions, holding back our laughter. And today I found myself crouched on the floor again, not meditating exactly, just agreeing to be still, saying, honey, to myself. Each time I thought about my husband splayed on the couch with aching joints and fever from a tick bite. What if he never gets better? Or considering the mess of the next election, or remembered just a few more minutes, I'd have to climb down into the cellar and empty the bucket beneath the leaky pipe that can't be fixed until next week. How long do any of us really have before the body begins to break down and empty its mysteries into the air? Oh, honey, I said, for once without a trace of irony or blush of shame. The touch of my own hand on my chest, like that of a stranger, oddly comforting in spite of all the facts. And as we enter into this time when we are going to be invited to open in compassion to those who are without homes, I invite us to start in that practice of compassion as we listen by closing your eyes if you're comfortable with that, putting your hand over your heart, feeling that touch, leaning back if you can, closing your eyes, taking a deep breath or two, and saying to yourself, oh, honey, oh, honey. One more deep breath together. Oh, honey. May we come into this community together with compassion for ourselves, compassion for each other gathered here, and compassion for those who we will be serving as we learn and grow together. It is good to be with one another this evening. So may it be.
Thank you so much, Linda. Perfect way to get started. And we're so grateful for you and everything you've meant to Associated Ministries over these years. She's been involved in many ways with us through the years. Our women's conference, a lot of our community convenings. It's just you're a joy to work with, and I'm grateful that you centered us this evening. So appreciate that. I'm going to just take a quick couple moments now to share a few logistics. First, we want to thank our generous sponsors, because you need to do that, because they've given us a big jump start on our success tonight by underwriting a lot of the costs and helping us meet our fundraising goal. We don't have a lot of expenses tonight, so that's the good thing about meeting this way. Our lead sponsors are Humana and Multicare, as you can see there on the slide. We're also really grateful for supporting sponsors DaVita, Molina, Johnson Stone Pagano, Financial Insights, United Healthcare, and Temple Bethel. It's really, really encouraging when local businesses step up and invest in our ability to continue our work in the community. So we just really extend our grateful appreciation to each of them. So, as Chris mentioned earlier, normally we'd be sitting around tables and we would have been able to introduce ourselves to each other. And of course, in this new reality of Zoom meetings, that isn't possible. So we're going to ask you to do that now by using the chat window. So would you just take a moment now and type in your name and what city you're joining us from this afternoon? So go ahead and start doing that. You may actually recognize the names of a few friends as the chat messages flash past. And don't worry, we're going to give you an opportunity at the end of this gathering. We'll unmute the microphones and you can stay after a little bit and greet one another if there's anybody online that you want to say hello to. I did want to mention, of course, that you can also use the chat window later on. There's a couple times we'll have some presenters, and if you're just dying to ask them a question, go ahead and type that in the chat window, and I'll be looking at that, and we'll have just a few minutes. The time is very tight tonight, but we may be able to squeeze in a few questions of our presenters. So use the chat window for that at any time you want to do that. And if you hadn't noticed, we're keeping all of your audio muted during almost the entire meeting tonight. This is going to allow us to stay focused on our presenters without background noises and distractions. I just want to reassure you, it's nothing personal. Everyone but the speakers is going to be muted. But again, at the end, if you want to stay after, we'll unmute you and you can greet folks. So to kick it off, just to kind of get you guys engaged and here with us, we want to take a poll. I'm assuming many of you who've been in the land of Zoom meetings these past many months have perhaps done that before. And it's going to be the first of a few polls that we're planning to do this afternoon, just to kind of make this time together a little bit more interactive, which is a great thing we can do since we're meeting on Zoom. It doesn't work as well when you're sitting in a big banquet hall, so we're going to take advantage of the opportunity to take a poll. So as we mentioned, we really regret that we are not able to be together in person this year. We really miss seeing you all in person and not being able to feed you breakfast. Unfortunately, this evening, you are on your own for food. But we did think it would be fun just to get an idea of what everyone's meal plans are for tonight. So we're going to launch our first poll, and we're going to ask you to vote and let us know and kind of self-disclose to each other. Did you eat before you logged on to the meeting? Or are you going to eat after this meeting? So we'll keep that in mind and make sure we end on time. Or would you be willing to admit that you're going to actually eat while we're meeting? And that's okay. I mean, it's the 5 o'clock dinner hour. And if you can't wait any longer, we want you to know that is okay. We're just glad you're here. So you see the options. When are you eating? Before, during, or after this meeting? Vote for one of those and then click submit at the bottom. And in just a moment, we'll let a few more of you submit your answers, and then we'll see what everyone's plans are. And that'll tell us a little bit about how many rumbling tummies there are in the background here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the results. Oh yeah, as suspected, the 2/3 of you are going to wait till after the eating to meet. But you know what? There's some brave folks here. Almost a fifth of you that are going to be eating while we're meeting tonight. Well, God bless you. That's okay. The mics are muted, so chomp away. We won't even know. You can close that button and we'll move on. So we're going to get into the meat of our presentation now, speaking of the food theme. And I'm going to introduce our first presenter, and that is Mr. Garrett Nyland. And as some of you who were here last night heard Garrett's presentation about youth homelessness, tonight he's coming back with an entirely different presentation about family homelessness, which is our theme for this evening. And he is the go-to guy that understands what is happening in the world of homelessness in Pierce County. Garrett co-chairs the Tacoma Pierce County Coalition to End Homelessness, and he's a member of the Pierce County Coordinated Transportation Coalition, and he co-chairs the City of Tacoma's Transportation Commission. And he's a board member with the Communities and Schools Tacoma, and is also on the board of Northwest Furniture Bank. Does this guy have time to work? It's unbelievable. He is super busy and involved. Garrett has a BA in history and a master's of librarianship, and he enjoys backpacking, cooking, and he says especially deep frying. So we may have to talk to him about that. He's so thin, I don't know how that works. But anyway, he also enjoys sailing and anything involving trains. He is quite a Renaissance man. But Garrett, thank you so much for being here again tonight. He's going to share his screen and step us through some slides about family homelessness. Welcome, Garrett.
Thank you, Mike. Mike only gave me 5 minutes, so I have to be quick. Tolstoy, at the beginning of Anna Karenina, which I've started numerous times, sadly, says, happy families are all alike, but every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. And I think Tolstoy's sort of telling us that you need a certain set of things in order to be happy, right? Things like financial security, you need health, you need affection in your family, and I'm going to say you need some housing to make it all work. And if you're missing any of those, things don't go well, which is pretty much how every family is in Anna Karenina, but worth making it to the end. Why are people homeless? And this is really a question about why are families homeless? And so I looked at data. We asked people when they become homeless, what made you end up living on the streets or in a shelter? And this is what they tell us, whether they know fully all of the reasons. We only asked for one reason, and I'm sure it's lots more for some families. Things all come together, but this is the straw that broke the camel's back, according to the folks we serve. Number one on the list, 16% of folks said underemployment or low income. And if you mix that in with no affordable housing, which is down on the list, and things like evictions, we're looking at probably a little more than a third of the families are really identifying economic causes of homelessness, which is understandable. We have some seriously expensive housing in Pierce County. Next on the list is family crisis and breakup. And right below that is domestic violence. And when you throw in something like health and safety, we're looking at a lot of families that are becoming homeless because the family's no longer staying together, right? For good reasons or for bad reasons. It's these destabilizing occurrences within families that sometimes cause households to end up being homeless. And we often think about homelessness and we think about the people we see who are homeless, which is a lot of times single adults on the street. And we think about mental health, we think about substance use, and people do not identify those as primary causes of homelessness. They typically, right? So mental health is 8%, right? Less than 1 in 10, right? And mental and substance use is only 6%. So people are really identifying economic, but really family elements too, which I think gives opportunities for our communities of faith to strengthen families. We really see adult homelessness. We do not see family homelessness very much. And a large part of that has to do with families work really hard not to be seen, right? There's a real sense with people that are experiencing homelessness, families particularly, that they need to remain hidden, that they don't want to be discovered by CPS, they don't want their children to be identified as living in a car or in a shelter, right? There's elements of shame associated with homelessness, which is really unfortunate. But we're seeing, this is a pie chart of everyone that's homeless in Pierce County right now, and less than half of them are single adults. We see a lot of female single parents. There's some 2-parent families. The little purple bar that doesn't have a label is male single parents. And so it's a lot of families we do not see. And family structures tell us a little bit about how successful people are when they exit homelessness and how much they're going to be able to exit, how quickly, and and how they're going to be able to, if they're going to be able to stay housed or have another episode of homelessness. And two factors around family structure come in. One is that when you look at the data, the more adults in a household, the greater their chance of staying housed, right? So there's more income coming in, right, from adults, more opportunities for stability. And the more children you have in your household, the less likely you're going to be able to stay housed, right? So the more, my children wouldn't want to be called liabilities, but I'm going to go ahead and put them in that category, is that so a family, two adults together with no children, has a much greater chance of getting out of homelessness and staying housed than a single parent with multiple children. Where are people experiencing homelessness coming from? So I've told you they're hidden, and I've given high numbers, right? It's a lot, right? 3,000, over 3,000 individuals and families are homeless right now in Pierce County. And they kind of come from all over county. So this is a map of Pierce County, right? The white bits are water. They should be blue, but that's how life is sometimes. And you can see that the larger the dot, the more households that came from there, right? So this isn't where they're living right now. This is where they came from, right? Their last permanent address. And it's predominantly our lower income areas, but it's not exclusively our lower income areas. And what happens though is we put all of our services in rather central locations, right? So most of our homeless shelters in Pierce County are inside of Tacoma. And so we see most of these families have to come to Tacoma in order to be sheltered or to get services, which can be really disruptive. When students end up, so I'm talking about kids and families now, when kids have to move schools because their family moves, they typically lose around 3 months of education, right? So they so if you're in school for 6 months or 9 months, right? Your school year is 9 months and you move, right? You're actually only getting about 6 years worth of the education that year, right? If you move mid-year. And this is a crazy number. In Tacoma, elementary students, the average turnover at elementary schools is 57%. That means that more than half of the students in school are moving at some point in the year and getting a lot of disruption. And you can imagine a disruption of a normal move, right? Or a disruption of moving to a foster family, right? Or the disruption of moving to grandmother or to staying with friends, right? And we would love to keep people in their schools, right? But by isolating ourselves and our shelters in one place, it's really challenging for students to have the stability of school. So so homelessness is really destructive to kids' ability to learn, which is kind of a bummer. And when we look at families, a lot of depressing stuff today, Mike. Sorry about this one. I'll have to have a more chipper set of slides next time. So we see a lot of families come in that don't have much income either. And this is where the magic of Associated Ministries really comes in. So they receive a family, and this is like my worst chart. So the blue bars are the number of households that have an income range. So the first one is between $0 and $500, and the second one's $500 to $1,000. So just about 75 or 80% of the families that come to Associated Ministries' front door for assistance are making less than $1,000 a month. So Associated Ministries has the opportunity to help work with them, to help them be stable long-term. And so a lot of the amazing work that happens with the staff is helping those families establish reliable income, whether it's jobs, workforce development, getting Social Security, disability payments, right? So that they can become independent. And they are very successful, and those families become stable, and the kids get the education they need. If you're ever interested in more homeless stuff, you can find me at pchomeless.org, and I'll put my contact information in the chat. And that's my depressing information about families, but the beauty of Associated Ministries is really helping these families exit some really destructive situations.
Thank you, Garrett. There's not a lot of ways to make statistics like this pleasant, and I didn't ask you to do that. So no worries at all. I mean, we need to hear the reality for us to move ahead in our understanding. And I just put a little reminder in the chat box if you have a question. Karen is asking if women are separate from adult single in the statistics. That's what she says.
So adult singles are single men and single women and every other gender. So that
Okay.
is just kind of one pile. We separate out male single parents and female single parents for some reason. I don't know, but we asked that question.
And then on your on the blue bars, the second blue column, what was the income range?
That was from $500 to $1,000
Yeah.
a month. Yeah.
That's a pretty common one. Of course, you saw actually the largest numbers at the bottom, but those are often the people that Garrett mentioned can get connected to, like Social Security, disability, or other payments. But boy, it is challenging to find housing for people whose income is below $1,000. But we do it every week, believe it or not. Any other questions for Garrett? Otherwise, we'll keep moving on, and he's going to stay with us. So, Judith, you say our children and families moving in with are moving within the county or out of the county generally. So maybe our placements, I guess.
That's a good question. We occasionally place outside of the county. We'll transport families anywhere in the world if they have permanent housing there. We don't just put people on buses and send them away. They have to have a permanent solution as a community. And Associated Ministries leads the way on that type of work within coordinated entry. There is probably maybe 15% of maybe 20% of families are moving around, right, into different counties from different states. So there is mobility like that occurs, less with families than with single adults. So.
There's always, that's one of the myths that I always like to bust when I'm talking to people about homelessness, that, because we have a wealth of services as is seen by some here in Tacoma, that tends to draw people from far away to come for all the awesome opportunities that we have. And really, folks, when you become homeless, you move into the most vulnerable and challenging state of your life. And the last thing you're doing is wanting to give up the few little familiarities and connections that you may have and just move to a new community. So most people, and it's in the 80 to 90% range in most every community nationally that monitors this, people who are homeless in that community last lived in that community. There's just no evidence that homeless people are migrating to where the services are. People become homeless where they last lived, because that's the part of their lives that they're familiar with. If you've got to find a place to hide, at least you can do that in a community you last lived in. You can do that a little bit more successfully. So that's definitely a myth. Okay, we're going to keep moving, and Garrett has his information in the chat box. If you want to email him with a personal question, let's not overwhelm him, but truly, he's the guy you need to know if you really want to get the straight answers about homelessness. We're going to hear now from another amazing community leader, and I'm telling you, she is like a superwoman today, because Donna Panapinto, the CEO of United Way, was on a 4-hour Zoom meeting this morning starting at 8 a.m. And I'm guessing she might have been prepping for that at 6 a.m. or certainly by 7 a.m. So she's been on Zoom all day long. It was the annual Poverty to Possibilities Summit that the United Way hosts for community leaders, where poverty solutions are discussed. And it's a highlight of the year for so many of us. And when I invited her like a month ago to present tonight, I didn't even put it together that it would be at the evening after probably one of the most taxing days of her life. And here she is, because that's honestly the kind of person that she is. So Donna, as I mentioned, is the president and CEO of the United Way of Pierce County. And she has been in that role since January of 2014. And she's been working in the United Way network for over 30 years. She has a very long history of working within the United Way system on behalf of children and their families. She's been very, very active in this community. She holds community conversations like the one we did today. She engages with CEOs, public leaders, agency partners. She serves on several committees and special projects. So she's just a woman about town, and we all love and know Donna so well. And we're grateful that she's joining us here tonight. Before she was here in Pierce County, she served at the United Way of Southeast Michigan in Detroit. That's super interesting. And then before that, with the Orange County's United Way and the United Way of Greater Los Angeles. So she's a woman of the world. She has a BA in psychology and an MS degree in counseling with an emphasis in children and families from Creighton. So she lives in Gig Harbor with her husband, Joe, and their dog, Henry. And she just kind of put a little bit more of the story of families that are in poverty and experiencing homelessness in our community. Just some personal reflections based upon what we're learning about the realities of families and what they face. So Donna, just thank you for taking a couple minutes just to put some more faces on this issue we're talking about tonight.
Well, good evening. Thank you, Michael. And I'm going to try to keep this under my 5 minutes. I actually put on my timer. So, but, the whole issue of family homelessness, United Way has a 10-year goal to lift 15,000 households out of poverty by 2028. And today, this summit that we had focusing on from poverty to possibilities, the theme of it today was around disrupting poverty by focusing on the intersections of trauma, equity, and resilience. And you think about the families that are homeless, and United Way really focuses a lot on those that are on the brink of homelessness. And they're those ALICE families. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that term, but asset limited, income constrained, employed. And these are families that get up every day, they're doing everything they possibly can, and they just can't make ends meet. And that's traumatizing to a family. Think about the trauma and the impact on children. And how do we as a community provide the support so these families can do what they need to take care of themselves, to have that resilience that's needed when they're faced with adversity. Just to give you a little sense of ALICE, in Pierce County, there are over about 100,000 households that are struggling every day to make ends meet. 100,000. Of those 100,000 families, and that's about 1 in 3, of those, about 15,000 are families with children. The ALICE population is 31% of the population in Pierce County is struggling. And it's probably with COVID even higher than that. And when you break that number down, though, you've got 46% that are Black, that are ALICE families, and 44% that are Hispanic. So if you just think about that, the disproportionate number of people that are struggling, that are teetering, that are on the edge, are families of color. And as Garrett was saying, one of the number one issues is underemployment. And when you look in our region, you need to make at least, for a family of 4, $38 an hour to be able to put a roof over your head, pay for the very basics. But you're still, if you're one emergency away from a crisis, so your car breaks down, someone gets sick, there's some kind of an emergency, then you're stuck. And that's where you run into the risk of being homeless, and that, I think that, is what United Way tries to focus on, and working with partners like Associated Ministries. Our 211 works very closely. Hopefully everyone's familiar with 211, our information and referral. I was asking the other day our staff, how many calls have we had from March and September? We've had 22,000 calls into 211 just on housing alone, just on housing between March and September. For shelter, it's 4,600. And I could probably have them break down those numbers as well. So that, the cost of household basics, is outpacing wages. Again, going back to the underemployment issue, thinking about childcare, the higher costs around childcare, the fact that so many people are having to work at home. And you know what, a lot of those ALICE families are probably not the ones that can work at home. unfortunately. And so they're having to worry not only about trying to find and work outside the home, but also to find quality childcare for their children. So, they just continue to be challenged. I think a bright spot as I round up my 5 minutes is with our, with the partnerships that we have with Associated Ministries and other organizations that are helping families. Our 211 is actually, we have housing navigators as well. And we are able to work with the agencies to get folks into housing through our 211 project. As well as, being that place where people are calling in. And then we can connect with either Associated Ministries, Tacoma Rescue Mission, and other agencies to point these families in the right direction. COVID has made the situation again worse for families. Right now, I'll kind of close with this. Right now, the last, the number may be even higher. There's about 8,000 households that are at risk of being evicted come just when the eviction moratorium is lifted at the end of December. So, we've got to figure out ways as a community to provide supports for families. We need to get, obviously we need to get people working, but right now we need to just make sure that people and families in particular are able to stay in their home, because housing security is essential to effectively addressing, other large important needs. As we all know, you have to have a housing security because there's also food insecurity, there's the child care, there's mental health issues, there's all these complexities and complex issues that families are facing, again, in light of COVID. But I do see light. I do see, light at the end, because we are a resilient community that looks for ways and very innovative ways to support those families that are at risk of homelessness.
Thank you, Donna, so much. As you can tell, she and her team are out there on the front lines, just spurring on so much of the collaboration. Their Center for Strong Families model is just so beautiful and innovative, and it's where they have nonprofits co-locating and actually cooperating in the provision of services, and that's the kind of thing that just reduces so many barriers for people at a time of trauma and crisis, and it's just one of so many innovative things that United Way has been involved in. We're so grateful to partner with United Way and their 211 line. We used to answer those 22,000 phone calls here at Associated Ministries, and we're like, there's actually a group of experts in our community that know how to answer the phone call and redirect people very efficiently, and why would we kind of have our own phone bank and duplicate the services of 211? And it might just be easier for those looking for housing referrals just to only have one number to remember, 211. So a year or more ago, we transferred that part of our homeless system to United Way, and it's been a beautiful thing. So Donna just put in the chat window a link to the Alice report. Super valuable information. They do the United Ways do such a great job in each community of just compiling this kind of information and helping people have an understanding of this kind of I think a lot of times hidden poverty, the struggling families, like she said at the beginning of her presentation, that just get up and go to work every day, and they're not sleeping in their car, they're not in a tent along the side of the street, and they're just struggling in a hidden way. So thank you for being there for them, for seeing them. We are going to take a quick poll now. As I mentioned, we want to get a little bit of interaction. You guys aren't experts. I totally understand that, but it's always nice to get a little temperature check of the audience, and this will help Michael, our next presenter. We're going to bring up a poll, and of course, we're just going to be we're just going to try to gauge your what you think we should be focusing on as organizations like United Way and Associated Ministries work on family homelessness. There's a lot of factors that contribute to it. And so we're going to ask you to look at these different factors that relate to why families are homelessness. These are known to be 4 of the top factors: lack of affordable housing, extreme poverty, decreasing government supports, and domestic violence are right up there. Which of these do you think, those of you here joining us tonight, which of those stands out as one of the more compelling issues that you think we should be addressing here in Pierce County? Maybe what do you see more of? What do you think we have a lack of resources to address in our county? You don't have to be an expert. This is just taking a quick temperature check of what your thoughts are. So pick one of those 4 quickly and hit submit, and we'll get an idea then of kind of what you, as this representative part of our community that are with us here in this room tonight, what you're thinking. So let's go ahead and close that off and look at the results quickly. And yes, look at that. Look at that. It's lack of affordable housing. And of course, as it's been known to be said, there is only one solution to homelessness, and that's housing. If you want someone not to be homeless, they have to be housed. And when you have an affordable housing crisis, that makes that job extra difficult. So that isn't surprising. Well, that helps us continue with the marching orders that we have, which is working with coalitions to work on things like affordable housing and access to the housing that we have. Well, somebody who knows everything there is to know about housing is going to just share with us next for a few minutes, Michael Mira. He's a community treasure in my mind. He's the executive director of the Tacoma Housing Authority, and he has served in that position since 2004. I mean, before that, he was there at THA for 2 years as their general counsel. But before that, before THA, he practiced law for about 25 years with Columbia Legal Services in Washington State and Legal Services in Tennessee. He represented low-income persons and organizations in civil matters, and his areas of practice included the law governing fair housing and housing policy and landlord-tenant relations and the homelessness of children, amongst many other things. So this guy knows his stuff. Michael graduated from the University of Chicago and Vanderbilt Law School, and he grew up, you might be able to guess, although he hides it pretty well these days, in Queens, New York. And Michael was just, such a good friend to me, and like personally mentored me 5 years ago when I started in this role. And I will be forever grateful for Michael, as almost all of us who work in this area, in this community, are always grateful for Michael's support and his wisdom and expertise. So just share with us a couple more minutes, Michael, about homelessness and families and housing, anything that's on your mind. Why should we in this room, the people that are here tonight, there's 63 computers logged on. There's about, a lot of them have, 2 people looking in. So there's about 100 people here tonight watching this right now. What do we need to know? Why should we care? What's the power of partnership? Give us some inspiration, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for inviting me. The frustration and the hope of the situation is that we know what victory looks like over homelessness. We don't need too many other studies. We don't need too many different models. We know how to do this. It's easy to be pessimistic, thinking it to be a money issue, and it is. Resources are key, but it's not that simple because homelessness is very expensive for every civic system. And when you take a family off the streets, it takes money to do that, but you're saving money in some other system. In the child welfare system, the mental health system, the public health system, education, the criminal justice system. The problem is the expenditure to take that family off the streets shows up in one spreadsheet and the savings shows up in another spreadsheet. And what the civic discussion needs is a unified spreadsheet. And if we could ever get there, this whole question would become a lot easier. The closest we have to a unified spreadsheet is the county, because the county either directly or indirectly runs all those other civic systems where the savings would show up. I'm not sure how to do that in a unified way so it matters when budget discussions are made, but that's what we need. Associated Ministries is an interesting organization. I admire it enormously. It has two contributions to the civic discussion. One is it is a provider. It has a substantive expertise and it knows how to do a good part of this work. That's important. More uniquely, it brings a special authority to the question. Because another thing the civic discussion needs is an insistence that the homelessness of children is not only intolerable, but it's preventable. And the Associated Ministry members brings the impulse of faith to that question, because it's a communal disaster and it needs a communal response, and faith has a contribution to make. And when you bring it to the discussion, Associated Ministries brings its own authority that nobody else has. And I'm very grateful for that. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael. Very, very, very inspiring as always. Does he speak with the gravitas of a lawyer who knows how to win a case, or what? Let's win this case. He's right. We don't have to argue for the rightness of this. This is the right thing to do. And you know, you don't have to be a CEO or an ED of a nonprofit like Donna or Michael or me to make a difference in the lives of those in need. Every one of us can do something. And in fact, I'm personally aware as I look around the screen here of the many incredible efforts that many of you are already doing in service to our community. I wish I could go down the list of all the things that you guys are all already doing. But I do want to take another quick poll here just to get an idea of why you support AM as we move towards our final minutes here. Or maybe you could click on the poll and let us know why you would like to support us going forward. Is it your faith connection? Associated Ministries is a faith-based organization, or congregational involvement. Have you volunteered over the years? Is it just the fact that we do work with the homeless? Is that the main thing that really is driving your interest right now? Click one of those and hit submit, and we'll get an idea of what your motivation is tonight. Well, I just finished talking a little bit more about Associated Ministries' role that we're so proud of in convening and deploying people in our community, people of faith and goodwill to serve the vulnerable. We've been doing that for 51 years, you know, and we feel there's real power and impact that can come when everyone works together to serve our community. And if you didn't know, we manage, as Michael even referred to, several key aspects of our county's homeless response efforts, and including co-managing the coordinated entry system, one of the rapid rehousing programs, the landlord liaison program that works with private market landlords, and Project Homeless Connect, the resource fairs. In addition, we convene and deploy congregations and other nonprofits that enable them to fulfill their own unique roles in addressing homelessness. And finally, we continue to embrace our role advocating for systems change, which is really underlying it all, including convening our Moral Voice advocacy group and our newest efforts to confront systemic racism and the critical impacts that it plays in the homeless and housing system. You know, our community depends on organizations like AM to be strong and effective if we're going to continue to meet the many needs that we have. And we need partners standing with us to enable us to stay strong and effective. No one can do this work alone. I think you got a sense of that tonight, just hearing from these great community leaders. But if we do work together, I really do believe there's nothing we can't do. So now I'm going to invite our board member, Sarah Rumbaugh, to issue an invitation to everyone on the meeting tonight to join us in sustaining and advancing this work. So quickly, an introduction of Sarah. You can see the poll answers there. Our work with the homeless is 3/4 of you, but there's some pretty substantial other things that you've been involved with. So thank you so much for sharing your motivations. So Sarah Rumbaugh, she's actually president-elect of our board. And she also serves on the board at Temple Bethel, her congregation, and she's on the City of Tacoma's Human Rights Commission. And she was previously employed as a city planner for the City of Kent, and she currently owns her own consulting business. She's got a master's degree in environmental studies from Evergreen State, and she lives in Northeast Tacoma with her husband, Stan, who many of us know as an esteemed Pierce County Superior Court judge. Sarah, as many of you know, just completed a historic and almost successful run for Pierce County Council. And among the issues that she championed during her campaign was the need for more behavioral health resources and affordable housing. And because of that, she has really become a passionate voice for social justice issues in our community. So Sarah, help us understand what we all can do to be a part of the solution.
Thank you very much, Michael. Can you guys all hear me? Sounds like you can. Okay. I first off want to say that my husband, Stan Rumbaugh, he serves on the Tacoma Housing Authority board, and he has been on the board for, I think, 23 years. Is that right, Michael? Yeah, so Michael Muir is telling me, yes, 23 years. So I want to tell you that the reason I got involved in this issue is because of my husband coming home from his meetings talking about housing and how important that is for our community. My name's Sarah Rumbaugh, and I'm proud to serve on the AM Board of Directors as President-elect. This is the time when I get to challenge you to make an investment into AM's ability to continue our essential work of meeting vital needs and convening and deploying community partners into compassionate and equitable services. If you were here yesterday, because I see many familiar names, I want to thank you if you have already given a gift to our organization and are supporting us. I so appreciate that, and we appreciate you. You are what make us strong. Right up front, I want you to know that I would not ask you to do something I wasn't willing to do myself. I've personally been involved in supporting AM as a volunteer and as a contributor, and my congregation, Temple Bethel, has been involved for years in volunteering and sponsoring events at AM. This evening, we've attempted to educate you about the needs and inspire you to believe that every one of us can be involved in meeting them. The consequences of inaction are too great. The future of those without shelter is too fragile. The work of AM is too essential for any one of us to sit on the sidelines. So I invite you to join by making a financial gift online right now. And several times during the talk, Michelle's been dropping it into the chat, and it should be there now. Or even better, will you commit to give each month for the next year to provide a sustaining source of revenue that we can count on all year long? People in need never stop coming through our door, which is why your willingness to help sustain our work on a monthly basis is especially important. Day in and day out, AM leads more than a dozen programs to effectively meet needs for some of the most vulnerable members of our community. I hope you looked through our website when you registered and that you read a little about the programs and services of Associated Ministries. Specifically, how will your gift help? A donation of $74 will fund 2 weeks of a caseworker's compassionate care, walking alongside a family in need. A gift of $192 will underwrite an AM staff member's work to find permanent housing for a family. Or a gift of $448 will provide the average monthly rental assistance that a family needs to stay in permanent housing. Some here this afternoon or evening could even provide an incredible gift of $2,398, the average amount required to stabilize a family and enable them to move their lives forward in permanent housing. AM has stepped up during the pandemic in some unprecedented ways, and we're eager to continue our momentum of doing new things in new ways. So this afternoon, I implore you, will you join us in our mission of working together toward lasting solutions to homelessness? Your support has never been more vital than it is right now. Thank you so much for your investment in the essential work of Associated Ministries.
Thank you all so much. Board President Ferguson, would you like to just close us out?
Sure, thanks, Mike. And thank you very much, Sarah. We appreciate your inspiring words and we take them to heart. From the bottom of my heart, I thank all of you present for joining us this evening. And in this, I speak for the entire Associated Ministries Board of Directors: Sarah Rumbaugh, Temple Bethel; Mary Lobdell Anderson, St. Patrick Catholic Church; Eric Jackson, Bethlehem Baptist Church; Martha Ward, St. Mark Lutheran Church by the Narrows; Jim Friedman, Temple Bethel; Karen Olson, Baha'i Faith Community of Tacoma; Kelly Blucher, Community Activist; Brendan Nelson, Peace Lutheran Church of Tacoma; Craig Hewish, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Tacoma; and Ron Martinez, Harbor Christian Church. I want to thank also the AM staff members who served on Focus Week Planning Committee, especially Michelle Cotton and Sandy Windley. And thank you everyone for bringing your compassion as well. Truly the tie that binds us to one another and with all those whom we serve through Associated Ministries programs and services. We're now going to unmute the microphones and video for any of you who want to stay for a while to greet one another. Otherwise, feel free to log off with our deep gratitude for your attendance tonight. And please do join us again tomorrow or Thursday for our remaining Focus Week events. The programming will be different, and I promise you'll learn something new if you come back again. So thank you all, and good evening.